So last video I talked about like 20 books you could possibly read for the Fuck Racism prompt of the FuckAthon readathon. For those of you that do not know, the FuckAthon is a readathon I'm hosting all throughout the month of July, whereby we read books that are connected to, you know, issues and topics we are really passionate about, and we're about tired of them, and we're just like, you know what, fuck that shit. So the first prompt I said was fuck racism, and I do have a list. I do have a video of about 20 books that cover that across different genres. I would list that up above, and I would also list both the FuckAthon announcement video and of course my TBR video, as well as the fuck racism video down in the description bar below. But that means that right now I am all about fuck the patriarchy.
To be talking to you, Belladonna. Should have taken a break, not an Oxford comma. Take what I want when I wanna, and I want.
Hello everybody, Noria back again. So just like with my fuck racism recommended reads, I'm actually trying to go for a more quite a diverse spread. So, you know, some adults, some non-fiction, some YA books, everything, trying to cover a mix and a wide range of what we mean when we say fuck the patriarchy. Now, of course, like I stated in my other videos, I am going to eventually pull together a spreadsheet, or at least a Google Docs, that is listing, like, you know, different prompts and also suggestions, because people have been kind enough to be dropping suggested reads in my comments videos. So if it is that maybe you're looking for a book, or maybe you're not really interested in any of the books I mentioned in this video, you can always check the comments down below. A lot of people always have excellent suggestions. Or you can also wait when it is that the Google Docs goes live sometime early July. So yeah, I'll just go straight to the very first book on that list, which is I Am Malala, the story of a girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban, which was of course written by Malala Yousafzai and Christian Lamb, I think. So basically what this book does is that this book tells the story of fighting for what you believe in and not letting the society dictate what it is that you can or cannot do. Malala always wanted an education. Her father, who was a school owner, also fought for her to have that right, for her to get an education, and her parents loved her fiercely and were willing to give her everything she wanted, especially in a society that always prized the sons more than the daughters. She was loved, and her parents pushed for her to have what she wanted. And of course, when it was that the Taliban, who were against girls getting that education, when it is that they threatened her, and when it is that they even went as far as shooting her in the head, she survived, thank the heavens, and is right now a living testament and proof to the fact that the one thing that the patriarchy will always be terrified of is our voice, and how loudly we scream our will to ensure that what it is that we are demanding for ourselves gets done. And I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but a lot of these books I have not read yet. They are very high on my TBR list though, so I do intend to eventually get to them at some point in time. So this is kind of like double functioning as my Goodreads and also as a way to keep myself accountable of all these books I've always wanted to read and I've never really gotten around to reading. Now the next book on my list is Drum Dream Girl, which was written by Margareta Engel. Yes, if it is that you're like, well, have I heard that name before? She did write one of the books in my Fuck Racism recommended reads. But so Drum Dream Girl was written by Margareta Engel and was illustrated by Rafael Lopez, and this is the story of a young girl who lives on an island where an island of music, where unfortunately it's only boys that are allowed to be drummers. Girls are not allowed to be drummers. So what she ends up doing is that she ends up drumming in her dreams. Everything she does in her dream, and eventually her dream is heard in real life. So when the people on the island hear her dream drumming, they all come out dancing and celebrating, and because of the joy her drumming creates in people, the law is lifted and everybody is allowed to be able to drum, whether they are male or female or whatever. If you want to drum, if you want to be a drummer, you're allowed to be a drummer, all because of the girl. Now this story is actually inspired by a real life person, a real life woman who did break the taboo of female drumming in Cuba, and that is Milo or Milo, I'm not sure which one of them, but I think it's Milo Castro Zadariaga, who was of African, Chinese and Cuban descent, and was the woman who broke the Cuban traditional taboo of female drummers not being allowed to drum. And I just think that I think it's a graphic novel, so it just sounds very awesome and amazing, and I cannot wait to read it. And I think it's also a middle grade text, but I'm not sure though. Next on my list is actually a book that someone actually recommended for me to read down in the comments in, like, I think in my FuckAthon announcement video, and that is Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows by Balikor Jaswal. Now, what happens when a young woman decides to place an ad, you know, offering to teach writing classes, and a group of Punjabi widows show up instead and state that, oh, they want to learn how to read, and they want to learn how to read using erotica stories. Utter magnificence it is. It's all about opening your eyes. It's all about acceptance. It's all about, you know, sharing your fantasies and memories and the joys and thrills of sex, and also all about, you know, finding that bond, finding that companionship, and also striking down the patriarchy. Because while all of this is happening, there is a toxic group of men, of young men called the Brotherhood, who have made it their mandated right to police others within the community. And there's this whole story about another young woman who is also as educated and enlightened as Nikki. That's the person who is offering this literacy classes to the Punjabi widows, who was murdered earlier. And you know, there's that mystery about it, and was she silenced because of how outspoken and how modern she was. So all of this is just, it comes together, and it's all about community. It's all about giving voice to your fantasies, you know, and accepting that that is a right. That is one of the first steps towards you stating that, you know what, I'm a full complete woman, I have sexual desires, and I'm going to talk about it. And it just sounds like it's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to read it. I know it's going to be slightly heartbreaking in some parts and slightly entertaining in some parts. And someone mentioned something about me having a new appreciation for ghee, or never looking at it the same way again, which is interesting because I use ghee to like condition my hair, to deep condition my hair. So when I say so, I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Anyway, I have a lot of questions I want answered. I cannot wait to read this book. It sounds like it's going to be fantastic. Next up is Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay, and I'm certain you're like, of course you're going to put a Roxane Gay book in this, Noria, but like I have to, like, in this collection of essays which operate like some sort of stream of consciousness, because let's be real, Roxane just jumps from topic to topic to topic with no seemingly connection until you get to a point in the book and you're like, that this is how they connect, this is how they interconnect. It's all about the intersectionality that is needed for feminism to succeed, because for us to actually accomplish anything, we have to realize that so many things come into play, especially when we're having conversations about feminism. So you know, disability, socioeconomic status, race, sexuality, pop culture, they all come together and they all form this basis through which the patriarchy keeps us under its thumb and directs / manipulates our decisions. And it's recognizing all of this for what they represent, you know, for the hidden messages that we have taught ourselves so long to ignore. It's being able to recognize these things that is our very first steps towards saying fuck it to everything, especially the patriarchy. So Bad Feminist, it's great. Of course, if you're not a pop culture buff, you might not really enjoy this book as much, because Roxane does give a lot of references to like popular books and movies and TV shows, and she does spoil a couple of movies, case in point Gone Girl, you know. But if you don't mind spoilers, or if you are really up to date on pop culture, or at least semi up to date as at when the book was published, then you should totally try and read it. And you know, we will all just be Roxane Gay, because I do relate so much to her, in the sense that I also do think of myself as kind of a bad feminist. But when you read the book, you would understand what we both mean by that. So yes. Now next up is Memoirs of an Early Arab Feminist, the life and activism of Anbara Salam Khalidi. Now this book not only chronicles the history of Beirut and a large part of the Arab world during the 19th and 20th century. It also tells the story of Anbara herself, who is a Sunni Muslim, who is a woman born into a Sunni Muslim family in 1897, and who wrote newspaper articles calling for women to fight for their rights during the Ottoman Empire. Yes, she was that much of a badass. She took off her veil as a protest in the during a lecture in the American University of Beirut. She translated Omar and Virgil in Arabic, and basically her life just showed the strides women took within the Arab world during the 18th and 19th century. And I'm in awe, and I'm amazed at the awesomeness that is this woman. And number 6 is, of course, The Hunger Games by Susan Collins. Like, if you think we're going to have a conversation about fucking the patriarchy and we're not going to talk about the awesomeness that is The Hunger Games, you know, that OG dystopian novel, then seriously, is that even possible? Like, all I have to say is Katniss Everdeen. Like, this is a book about toppling governments, about turning the status quo on its head, about people deciding that enough is enough and they are refusing to budge, about people sacrificing their lives in order to have that dream, achieve that dream of a new way of life, a new system of government. Like, it does not get more fucking the patriarchy than that. So if you've not read this OG dystopian novel, go read it. Like, please go read it. Take this as my permission to, because brilliant, utter perfection. The last book, though, painful, but we can't have it all. We can't have it all. Next on the list is Flygirl by Sherry L. Smith. Now tell me, what book says fuck the patriarchy more than a book about a black girl who wants to be a pilot and follow in her father's footsteps, but unfortunately realizes that she cannot accomplish that dream because she's both black and a woman? And when it was that the Women's Air Force Service Pilots Program was created, and she was, you know, eager to finally sign up, and realized that she still could not join it because she is black, decided to pass for white so that she could accomplish her dreams, and then had to deal with, you know, the crisis with regards to identity as a black woman that arises from that, even though that is a sacrifice she has to make in order to accomplish her dream in a system that consistently discriminates against her based on the fact that she's both black and a woman. Because Flygirl is that book, and Ida May is that girl, and this, I want to read this so bad, like so fucking bad. Next up is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. Now this is a story of 3 girls, Grace, Rosina, and Erin, who decide to come together and fight for an old classmate who was run out of town when she admitted that a group of popular boys had raped her. And you know, the town just closed rank and refused to believe her, and due to the humiliation and everything that, you know, the threats and everything that she suffered during that period of time, she left the town. Now this is a story of a group of young women who then finally come together, who link hands and refuse to back down whilst demanding for change in the town, in their school. This is a story about a group of young women who hold each other up and refuse to let any of them fall into despair. This is a story about a group of women who doubted that they could actually pull this off, but stood firm even when the doubts assailed them. This is a story about how patriarchy hurts us all, and the only way for us to actually fight back is for us to become more intersectional with our fight, because quite a lot of the girls in the school coming together to take this stand. And I just, like I said in my announcement video, stories about rape do get to me. So if this is a book that you know is going to be triggering for you, please, you can always drop it. It's a book I will eventually get to. I just don't know when, but I'm definitely interested in reading it. And let me just give you a heads up, because quite a lot of the books on this list, now that I think about it, do actually, you know, talk about, you know, assault and rape and women and girls kicking back and fighting against it, because we do know that whole victim blaming, slut shaming, rape culture is further perpetuated by the patriarchy. So they're kind of interwoven in a way. So yeah, just a heads up. The next book is the exact opposite of Okay by Lauren Stevens, and I have 4 phrases: slut shaming, sex positive, revenge porn, do no harm but take no shit. Those were the 4 phrases that had me hooked and made me know that I would eventually fall in love with this book when I get the chance to read it. Not because there's slut shaming in it, but because there is a character who is sex positive, who refuses to be slut shamed for following her desires, and who kicks back against a society that will want to shame her for having a sex drive, a society that will want to shame only her, even though her and the boy were caught on tape. But she's the only person that deals with that backlash. And I know it's going to be hard to read because revenge porn is something else that, you know, a misogynistic society uses, especially against women, to shame us into, you know, having a healthy sex drive and loving our bodies and loving sex. And this book is all about flipping any society that would want anybody, any woman, any young girl to feel ashamed of that, especially when that shame is not equal across both participants in said act. Next up is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerry Maniscalco, and I know if you read the book, you probably know exactly why this book is on this list. I haven't read it yet, but it's definitely high on my list of books to get. Now, Audrey Rose, our lead character, is born at a time when Victoria, England assigns her just one role: the beautiful daughter of a rich lord who is meant to look forward to a life of privilege and wealth spread right in front of her, except for the fact that Audrey kicks back against that. Instead, she would rather spend her night, you know, dabbling into forensic medicine and trying to find the identity of the serial killer Jack the Ripper. Like, seriously, nothing says fuck the patriarchy like pulling off true crimes in Victoria, England, and I am down for that shit. And then there's Moxie by Jennifer Matthew, which is all about girl love, girl power, and girls saying enough is enough. Now, this is the story of Vivian, our protagonist, who decides that, you know, she's fucking sick and tired of the football team, of a high school football team, going about not being touched, not being called into account for any of their actions, and basically getting away with shit. She's tired, she's sick and tired of the all-way harassment that she has to deal with. She's sick and tired of, you know, the sexist dress codes in the school. And so, in the tradition of a punk rock mother, she decides to create her own feminist magazines, calling out this shit, and circulates it anonymously in class. Except what starts off as a way of her blowing out steam gathers traction as other girls in school start to respond. And then she realized that it doesn't matter their social economic class or what cliques they belong to. All the girls, most of the girls, regardless of their popularity or their social standing, have all started to respond to them, because unanimously they have all decided that enough is enough and it's about time, and that they are damn ready to have their voices heard. Which sounds fucking brilliant to me. Fucking brilliant. Next up is my pick for the Fuck the Patriarchy prompts for FuckAthon, and that is The Girl King by Mimi Yoon. This book tells the story of 2 sisters. Lu is the firstborn of the family, and she's basically been waiting to take over the throne that she has been, you know, training to ascend all her life, only for her father to suddenly decide to give the throne to her cousin, who is a man. And Lu, of course, rightfully gets pissed because that is her fucking ass throne, and she leaves to go raise an army so that she can claim the throne that is rightfully hers. Meanwhile, stays behind, but in staying behind discovers powers, really strong powers, and this power starts to give her ideas, because then she starts to think that, okay, so if she has the power, why the fuck can she not just claim this throne as her own? After all, she has the abilities and the power to do so. And this is just basically about 2 women who decided that they are not going to let society dictate their future or the future of their kingdoms. They are going to take what is rightfully theirs, either by right of birth, which is of course Lu's, or by right of power and might, which is of course Min's. And it just sounds fascinating. Yeah, they're probably going to battle it out to the death, aren't they? But it's just, I am definitely always a sucker for women deciding that they are going to claim back their power, and they're not going to let any society determine exactly, you know, who and what they are going to become. And definitely looking forward to reading this. Next is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ngan, which, you know what, love it, hate it, or maybe you're kind of meh about it, you know, like kind of like me at this point in time. But we cannot deny that this is a book about female empowerment. That whilst Natasha is telling us the story of Lay, who is forcefully taken away from her home and forced to join the king's harem as one of his concubines, or Paper Girls as they are known in this book, she's also telling us a story of abuse, a story of a society that sees women as dispensable, as existing only to please the man. She's also telling us a story of resistance, because one girl decides that no, she would not be the king's concubine, she will not be his plaything, her love and agencies are her own, and she will fight for it. And that decision, that stance, starts off a revolution that would turn the entire caste system in this country on its head, and I am totally and completely here for it. Next up is the Disreputable History of Frankie Landau-Banks. Landau or Lando, not sure, but I think it's Landau-Banks by E. Lockhart. And this book tells the story of Frankie, who is rightfully pissed off that she's not allowed to join a private school's elite secret society, the Order of the Loyal Bassett, because she is a girl, which is funny because, you know, she's kind of already the undisputed leader of said society, and she decides by using pranks and stunts and daring to, you know, convince at school to rescind that order and allow her join the secret society. And I know it might sound very funny and childish, but it's at its very heart, this is a story that tells us that, one, we do not have to accept things as they are. We can always demand for things to change, and we have the ability / power to change the world, or at the very least a school, which is something I approve of greatly. Next up is Lumberjanes by Noel Stevenson, Grace Ellis and Faith Hicks. What can I say? Stories of girls coming together, banding together to solve problems and kick supernatural asses, all the whilst not leaving any comrade behind, always gets to me, especially because in this society that we exist in, when we are always fed that stupid ass garbage of not like other girls, or girls don't like girls, which are always conditionings that we know the patriarchy puts into place because they are terrified of just how strong and powerful we can be if we do come together and fight back. So I always love stories like that, and Lumberjanes is no exception. It's this amazing ass comic book. Like, I find the drawing styles really interesting, different but interesting. I also love the cheeky way in which the Girl Scout pledge was turned upside down, and also the fact that throughout this comic we celebrate women in history who have broken barriers and boundaries and have pulled up amazing feats. And it just sounds heartwarming and funny, and also very motivating and inspiring, and I don't know, it fits the prompt for me. So yes. Next is Does My Head Look Big in This by Randa Abdel Fattah. Now yes, that is also an author from the last video. This is the story of Amal. She's a 16-year-old Australian Palestinian Muslim girl who decides to wear the hijab full-time, and is exposed to the reactions and onslaught of comments that she gets as a result of that choice. Now, I always love listening in on conversation amongst Muslim women about, you know, their hijab. Like, some women choose to have it on, some women choose to have it off, some women choose to have on full burqa, and it's all about choice. And every time a woman exercises her right to choose, for me, it's a big fuck you to the patriarchy that always seeks to enforce their decisions and thoughts and opinions on women and our bodies and our right to choose. Next up for me is Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. Now this is a story about 3 young girls who come into their powers and decide that enough is enough. They are going to fight back against this ancient entity / monster that has been snatching up other young girls for decades, and that had become the status quo. And they decide that enough is enough. They are not going to stand for it. They are going to fight back. They also fight back against a society that would have young girls stay quiet and just offer themselves as willing sacrifices without, you know, any thought for what it is that they want and the life they want to live eventually. And I think it fits the prompt perfectly well. I love this book. I read this earlier in the year, I think, and I loved it, and it definitely fits the prompt for me. And there are some really, really kick-ass girls here, and it's just so many iconic moments. That's all I'm going to say. So many iconic moments. Next up is a book that broke me. It's definitely one of my favorite books of all time, even though it is such a hard book to read. I listened to it on audio and I still haven't recovered, and that is Sadie by Courtney Summers. And this is a book about Sadie, whose younger sister was murdered, but the murderer was never caught. And Sadie decides to go on this long journey because she's figured out exactly who the killer is, and she decides that she's going to enact her own vengeance on the killer. And along this journey, she sets out to also rescue other abused children like herself and free them. And it's a heartbreaking story about, you know, just how society does not value young girls and young children, and how easy it is for them to slip through the cracks, especially when we're dealing with respected members of society who are the ones behind these cases and scenarios. And it's just, I remember how heartbroken I was when I read this book, but it's such a good book, and I think it fits this prompt perfectly. And even though Sadie accomplishes what she sets out to do at great personal risk to herself, she accomplishes it, and what she's able to achieve as a result of it, especially for the tens of children that she's able to rescue as a result of that, even in those last moments of the book. I think it fits this book. I think it fits this prompt. It's heartbreaking, but I think it definitely fits this prompt. Next up is Gabi, A Girl in Pieces by Isabel Quintero. Now, Gabi, other than dealing with a meth dad, a religious and too strict mother, one of her best friend who gets pregnant, and the other best friend who comes out to his family and is kicked out as a result of it, also has to deal with, you know, all the emotions and all the things that comes with being in her senior year, especially living with a mother who insists on telling her to keep her eyes open and her legs closed, because, you know, not doing so is what gets girls raped, and girls who get raped are asking for it. And Gabi is not going to stand for that. She spends the entire book fighting against, you know, slut shaming and the cultural and social stigmas that come with being sex positive, and creates these magazines whereby she has these conversations, and also points out the fact that so many parts of the female body is labeled dirty and has been objectified for so long, but none of them are inherently bad. Like, none of these body parts are inherently bad. They are just that. They are just our bodies. And it sounds like a book I would have loved to have read when I was 16 going on 17, when I was 16, 17, and it still sounds like a book I still want to read even now. It sounds like a book a lot of us should read. Just saying, especially as someone who did grow up with like a too strict and religious mother, who also did, you know, have such thoughts and opinions. I just felt so seen and so heard, and Gabi's rage and anger and refusal to buy into that toxic bullshit that the patriarchy has fed us for so long, and even our parents have imbibed and tried to force on us as well, was my rage at that age, and it's still my rage right now. And finally on my list is Foul is Fair by Anna Kappin. Now, this is not coming out until February next year, but you can bet it is going to be on my anticipated list, because this is a book about revenge, and I love me stories about revenge. Now, this is a book about a group of girls. One of them is raped by a prep school boy in the previous summer, and now the girls are back and ready to get their vengeance and slowly strip the boys of their society, of their standing, their wealth, their standing, their wealth, every single thing that matters to them, and tear them down. And I am ready and living for it, especially because when it was that, you know, they did report what happened during the summer, the boys got away with a light tap on the wrist, and we live in a world where this happens regularly. Just turn on your TV screens. The amount of white men that have been able to get away with this, especially in colleges, you know, where you just hear community service as some bullshit, and you're like, but like, there is fucking ass proof. There is fucking proof, and you know that it's the double privilege of their race and their class that is coming to play. And yeah, so being able to read a book where the girls do finally get their revenge just sounds right on par with how I'm feeling, and I cannot wait to read it next year. So yeah, those are the 20 books, you know, that fits the fuck the patriarchy prompt for me. But it's for me, I am definitely hoping, I'm definitely open to, you know, everybody dropping their suggestions. We are going to be creating this Google Docs together, so I do want it to be a very interactive conversations and experience for both of us. I actually was looking for, you know, books about non-binary folks, you know, telling the patriarchy to fuck you, but that is so fucking hard, which makes me so fucking pissed, because it should not be hard to find them. So please, if you do have any recommendation or any other recommendations, please drop them down in the comments bar below. If you like this video, please do not forget to give it a big thumbs up. Check out my other videos. Subscribe if you want to. I make new videos every Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I'll see you soon. Until then, stay passionate, love books, love yourself. Bye.
My strange addiction, my doctors can't explain my symptoms or my pain.